bathrooms now. It can be one of the most exciting parts of renovating are the utility spaces, the bathrooms and the kitchens. So we have a whole section during this time on externals, and I find that to do one section on internals would just overwhelm you. Once we get into what we're going to do here, if I said, cool, let's roll straight into kitchen planning now, I reckon half of you might leave. So we're going to isolate bathroom planning so we can really drill down into it. How many of you guys have renovated a bathroom before? Nice. How many of you enjoyed it? That's great. That's like 50%. That's amazing. That's awesome. What was the most rewarding part, do you think? The finish. What was that? Oh, who is a self-confessed demolition diva? Oh, there's quite a few of you. Do it. Hands up straight for me. Who loves demo? All right. Okay. There's actually maybe 20% of the audience love demo. That's alarming. So, guys, whenever... It's alarming. All right. Yeah. So, whenever I approach any form of renovation, guys, I always approach it on 3 different levels. And that's how we're going to learn it today, okay? So, first of all, is we're going to look at what are our options to add value, okay? So, we're going to tie the hands of the demolition divas, because sometimes they need tying, and we're going to have a look at what we can actually do to add value to that. Might involve a little bit of demo, add value to that property. And you know what, there are some times, we're going to talk about this, when the decisions that you make, you're kind of like, man, I should just rip that thing out and replace it, right? And that will be our second step. So if we can't add value, then we'll look at what we do when we rip it out. So, interesting conversation. I had a conversation with a student yesterday, actually. They were saying to me, I just wish I knew all the right answers. So every property I knew, I just walked in and had to do this. You know what? You could do that, but you run the risk of not maximising your return on your dollar. So what we're going to do here today is I'm going to take you along the spectrum. I want you to think about this like you're graphically looking at the renovation continuum. So all the way up at cosmetic is where we're going to be just looking to add value. And then at the tail end of that, we move into the advanced cosmetic, where it might be about replacing shower screens and vanities, but we're not really in a full-on renovation. And then we get to the point where we go, oh, you know what? I'm not getting my bang for buck out of that. I'm going to move to a very advanced renovation, and I'm going to gut that entire bathroom. But if you don't know what all of your options are along that way, you could be completely missing your sweet spot. And some of the things that we talk about today, people are like, are you seriously going to talk to me about how to clean grout? It's like, man, I'm going to talk to you about how to clean grout. Because if you go rip a wall apart just because the grout's mouldy and I could have taught you how to make it not mouldy, I probably just saved you $5,000. So damn straight, we are going to talk about how to make grout look better. Cool? So we're going all the way from the minutiae up to smashing that bathroom. We're going to do a pile of planning, and then we're going to get into the pretty stuff and work out exactly where we're going to apply all our features. Sound good? Yeah. All right, let's go. Adding value. It's really important before you start any part of your renovation that we visit these. The must-dos, the should-dos, and the could-dos. So our must-do, guys, are things that, remember, they affect our saleability. We must do some things to a bathroom. So, for example, if a tap was leaking or broken, is it a must-do? Yes. If the membrane, or if it's leaking through to the subfloor, is it a must-do? No. Perfect. If you just don't like the colour of the shower screen, is it a must-do? No. Okay. Well, we're not. Okay, next, very good points just come up. Who are we renovating for? Are we renovating for ourselves or for a target market? Someone's read the study program. That's awesome. Okay, so we need to think about what our must-dos are. Our should-dos are things that we know our target expect. Hands down, we know our target expect it. So if we don't deliver it, we're going to jeopardise our sale price, or we're going to even affect our saleability all up. And then our could-dos. Our could-dos are, what are the out-of-the-box things that we could do that might completely explode our profit based on the data we have? Yeah, there's lots of options. That's exciting. So must-dos in a bathroom. What do you reckon's a must-do in a bathroom, guys? Tap. What else? Grout. Yes, so mould. Mould damage, water damage, broken tiles or broken taps. They are an absolute must. There is no getting around it. So if you're going to do anything in a bathroom and you're not doing those, then you shouldn't touch the bathroom at all. You should sell it as an as-is. All right. Now, in your core resource, you will see in there that there's a huge, there's like a 10-page list that covers all of the property of all the possible must-do things. So at the start of every renovation, I want you to grab that out, and I want you for example, the bathroom, I want you to go through it just to make sure you're not missing any of these must-dos. The other things are leaky plumbing, poor drainage. So has anyone ever gotten into a shower, usually in a hotel, and noticed that the water flows towards the door? Yes? Not cool. What do you reckon happens when that property gets inspected by the building inspector? Fail. So do you reckon, who has ever had, well, maybe I'll just tell you the story. Every time I ever put a property on the market, I go in after the building inspector and my shower is always wet. Always wet, each and every single time. Who else has noticed that? Yep, every single time. So some people go, well, it doesn't matter, I'm not living in that place. It does matter, because if you've got the floor down, you've got the walls down, and that building inspector comes and turns on that tap and checks your fall and checks the rate of flow down that drain meets standards or doesn't, they will note that in your inspection, and it will drastically affect the saleability of that property. And how easy do you reckon it is to retile a floor when your vanity, your shower screen and your walls are in? Yeah, easy. Who thinks he's fibbing? Yes, absolutely. So things like poor drainage, ceiling repair and faulty electrical, they all fall in your must-dos. So we're going to start now, though, to examine each part. So when you think about every space, we'll talk about this heaps, okay? When you think about every single space that you're going to be looking to renovate, I want you to break it down into elements. So for example, in a bathroom, we've got a floor, right? We've got walls, yeah? We've got ceilings, we've got lighting, and they all touch each other. They're all connected. So in part of the how do we add value, I don't want you just to walk in and go, man, those tiles are horrid. I need to renovate this property. I want you to try and put on a really discerning, that's a grown-up word, a really discerning set of goggles. And I want you to go, right, if I eliminated the purple bath, the avocado bath. If I eliminated the avocado bath and I tiled over the floor, would those wall tiles suddenly look okay? Yeah? So I want you to literally break it down element by element and assess each element at one time, which is exactly what we're about to do here. So the only thing we need to keep in mind, which you'll see here, is each element of a bathroom touches another. So whatever I do to the floor can affect the walls. Whatever I do to the walls will affect the shower screen and the toilet. Whatever I do to the ceiling will affect the walls, because everything is connected. Cool? All right, let's have a look. So bathroom floors. We have these ideas, and it's the way I approach every single renovation I do. I can refresh it, I can refinish it, I can retile it, or I can replace it. Cool? So let's look at floors. Floor refreshing. One of the best things I've ever done is become best friends with a franchise around the country called Tile Rescue. Has anyone ever used them? Write them down. They are absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. They clean better than any set of nails and any scrubbing brush I have ever seen. So they bring grout all the way back to normal. They can top your grout. They're a franchise. They're in multiple places around the country. And to have, for example, to have an entire bathroom completely cleaned and the grout refreshed, I've paid as little as $500. Yeah, exactly. What came out down here? What? Absolutely. So, refreshing. It needs to be the first port of call, and it doesn't just have to be you cleaning it, because every time I think about that, I want to run and hide. Okay, the next one, guys, is refinishing it. This is actually a bathroom that I did, not my choices. My choice was to paint the floor here. So this had a terracotta floor. It's in a $1.3 million house. They didn't have hardly any money to spend on getting the property ready for market, and so I refinished that floor for them. And I did it with this product. It's a product called Rust-Oleum. Has anyone used Rust-Oleum before? Yeah, cool product, hey. Very cool product. And so they have a variety of finishes, and they have non-slip finishes. They're fantastic. So technically you can put any paint on any surface. Number one, will it stick? Number one, will it stay? And number two, is it safe? So, number three, is it safe? So Rust-Oleum is a fantastic product. It's a product that comes in multiple colours and different textures, so you can literally paint out. So they were terracotta tiles on that bathroom floor. That property sold for $1.3 million. Cool? So if I'd made the choice that I wasn't going to do that, I would literally, that would be a can of worms. I couldn't renovate a bathroom and leave a corner bath, not in 2017. You know, I couldn't renovate the bathroom and leave a framed shower screen at $1.3 million. It would have been a complete gut and redo. Whereas that cost them less than $200, and they still sold their house for $1.3. Who here has painted a bathroom floor before? Awesome, awesome. That's fantastic. Who here's been told you can't? Yeah, rubbish, I say. And that's why we have the Bristol guys here this afternoon tonight. They'll be able to tell you much more about these products. Definitely one to look into. So this again is another version of a refinish that was done. I'll go back to it. This was another floor refinish that was done. $1.7 million property. It can absolutely be done, and it doesn't have to be on your budget properties. Cool? Now the next one is one that is called tiling over. So has anyone tiled over a bathroom floor before? All the renovators? Absolutely. It can be an amazing way to transform a property, especially without having to pull up the floor and disturb the plumbing. So for those of you who haven't done it, one of the reasons, so some people might say, Naomi, if I can paint it, why would I tile over it? And it often depends on your exit strategy. Without doubt, you know, I would never complete any form of renovation that I knew wouldn't be quality and have longevity for its purpose. But it goes without saying that tiles on a floor have much more longevity than a painted floor. So if that was a property that I was choosing to hold, that I was choosing to rent out to someone who had kids and boats and cars in the bathroom running around on the floor, I wouldn't choose, if I was going to be holding that property, to paint it. I would choose to tile over it. So let's have a think though, in tiling over it, which is probably one of my most favourite options for bathroom floors, what is one of the things that you think I need to consider? Oh, perfect. So the height of the step from outside in, what else? Floor waste, yep. Say that again, sorry. Cupboard doors, so if there are any full-size pantries in there. Well, really, it's all doors. What else? Yep, was there a membrane underneath intact? And do you need to put another one on top of the old tiles? Yep. Toilet pan, yeah, how it affects the toilet. Height, because there's nothing worse than sitting on a really short toilet, hey? Has anyone had that moment where it's not where you expect? It's like thud. Oh, hit it now. So you can't make... It's true. You're all laughing because it's true, and not even when you've had a drink. It's true when you're sober if the toilet's too short. I'm going to find a short toilet and make you all go, try now. Toilet too short. It's an issue. There was a hand up over here. Drainage, absolutely. So the fall and the drainage. Anything else? Yeah, absolutely. Not an option if all the tiles underneath are drummy. Does everyone know what I mean by drummy? Yeah? So, no? Okay, cool. So if you ever, it's very, very high tech. If you ever want to know what's under a floor, I generally jump on it in heels. A bathroom floor that's on in a suspended slab sounds different. It sounds tinnier. If your bathroom floor has been put over timber floorboards, like a bed and then tiles, when you jump on it, it sounds like this. Sounds like the stage. It sounds hollow. And so when you're wanting to check whether they're secure to the bed underneath them, you can just tap on them. And when they sound drummy, they sound hollow and echoey. When they're attached firmly to the bed underneath them and you tap on them or stomp on them, they sound very solid and quite tinny. And that way, because often they'll all look intact, especially wall tiles, they'll look intact because they're often not being touched. But when you go around and drum on them, when they sound drummy, you know that there's not a great adhesion underneath them. And so if you were to go over the top, you'd then end up in a whole world of trouble. Does that make sense? Cool. Anything else you reckon? Yeah, the bath height. Hopefully it won't affect us too much. But if we had a freestanding bath, that would be a much greater job because we'd need to unplumb it and remove it because you wouldn't really want to tile up around it. Yes, that was my next one, your shower screen. So generally speaking, when you are tiling over in a bathroom, unless it's one of those amazing old bathrooms that have like the tiled hob and the fish on the shower screen, we've all seen them with the avocado bath, unless you have one of those, if you're tiling your floor, it does affect your shower screen. Generally speaking, you'll always have to take it out and put another one in. And generally speaking, unless for some reason you're very, very lucky, it'll have to be a new one. Because most shower screens are specifically cut to size, and because your fall on your floor might be a little bit different to the old floor, you can't guarantee your old shower screen will fit back in perfectly. Cool? So these are all the things you need to consider. But in saying that, it's all doable. It's very easy to get the same fall. Any good tiler will be able to get a good fall for you. If anything, to be honest with you, they might even be able to get a better one. The toilet too short, that would suck if the toilet was too short. But generally speaking, if you're tiling over, you're really only changing the height of your toilet by a little bit. And you'll find a lot of the time, go and have a look at a toilet. I'll check these out in the break and let you know. And if they're like it, we can all go in and look. Often some of the old toilets are put up on a little bit of a concrete bed. And so you'll find you've got a bit of height and room around them. If your membrane is compromised, then that is a completely different ball game, or if your tiles are drummy. Doors, absolutely. It will mean if your door to your bathroom is over the top of the existing floor, that it doesn't butt up to it, you will need to get it taken off and rehung. Your floor waste, they can be simply raised. They don't even need to be replaced. They can just have an extender. Where are the plumbers in the room again? Okay. I simply extend them, put a new waste at the top and then tile around them. That's completely manageable. So there are, I wouldn't call them obstacles, I'd just say things that you need to solve if you're going to tile over. But the change that you can get is absolutely massive. So these are some of the things. It's only appropriate when your membrane's intact, when it's watertight, when they're adhered well, when the rest of the bathroom is in good condition, and when all of these heights work. Okay? And it can be such a transformation, a massive, massive transformation. This, for example, is a transformation. This was a $2.6 million property. They called me in to get some bathroom help. It had a Tiffany blue floor. Tiffany blue floor with cushioned tiles and 4mm grout lines. It was very awesome. And literally tiled over it, popped in a new shower screen, and that's it. So it can really be done, really be done. All right, our next option is replace. So we looked at refresh, we looked at refinish, we looked at retile, now we're at replace. So the big news is, guys, it's not often that it's appropriate without doing a full bathroom renovation. It can be really difficult. Because if we decide to rip out our floor, what else do we need to rip out? Shout it out. Yeah. Well, that was skipping to the end, wasn't it? Jeepers. Toilet, shower, generally at least the bottom row of your floor tiles. Vanity, well, if you're wall hung, no, but yes, generally speaking, a vanity. So it's only appropriate, really, to replace your floor tiles when the membrane is, when it's compromised, or when it's compromised, when a refinish isn't acceptable, or when your height levels are all out. That's when I would think about replacing. But realistically, guys, you can't replace without gutting. It's really quite difficult. It's probably one house I've ever done I've been able to replace without gutting the whole bathroom. Cool? All right. So let's move on to walls. Same sort of theory, guys. Someone's pumped. Let's move on to walls. We're going to go refresh, refinish, retile, and replace. So refreshing is exactly the same as before. You can get Tile Rescue in to do that. And you can also, this is one of my favourite ever things. Who has used the White Knight grout pen before? It is absolutely phenomenal. Those of you who haven't, it is an essential in a renovator's toolkit. Just when you think you've scrubbed and scrubbed and scrubbed, and that is a true before and after, you get the tiles back to white, and then you look at the grout and it looks even more yellow. So rather than ripping out your walls, you can actually use, it's a White Knight grout pen. You can get it from pretty much anywhere. All the Bristol stores have it, so you'll be able to use your discount on it, and it is fantastic. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's just like a liquid paper pen. Yeah, does everyone know what I mean by liquid paper pen? It's just like a liquid paper pen, and you can even pay your children to do it because it's colouring in between the lines, and it's literally just painting over the grout with your pen. Cool? Can be one of the cheapest and best ever. So you combine that, you combine tile. Yes, of course. Great question. So the question was, is it only available in white? I have seen a couple of different variations, absolutely, but not in the full gamut. So if anyone's seen a full grout fan deck, definitely not in the full grout fan deck. I have seen a few colours, but I think they're a different brand. Cool? So when you combine, we'll just go back to that, when you combine your refinish and when you combine your grout pen and your Tile Rescue, you can actually completely rescue your walls, completely rescue them. So refinishing, this is an interesting one. So this is about basically refinishing or repainting your tiles. So when I say this, the reason I'm showing you this example, I don't want you guys to think that you literally have to paint the entire walls. So on this bathroom, this was a property that I did. I literally painted out the frieze. The frieze. So see here, the bright blue 1970s/80s seashell blue frieze. So there was nothing wrong with this bathroom except for the terracotta floor and the blue frieze. Nothing wrong with it at all. And so I tiled over the floor because I was wanting to rent it. And I didn't want to. It's a family home, so I needed to ensure it was robust. And I wasn't going to be ripping it. It had 3 big bathrooms, all with the blue seashells in them. They even had feature tiles in there with the blue seashells. So I simply had those tiles refinished. And I didn't have to touch anything else in that space. So see what I mean about breaking down the elements, guys? Yes, question? Didn't do it all. I literally just did the frieze, the feature frieze. No, not greatly, no, not at all. Not enough to warrant ripping out the bathroom, especially when there's 3 of them. 3 identical bathrooms. That's one of the risks when you get a big property, for example, that has 3 bathrooms, is that all of a sudden your spend is quite exaggerated. So in that circumstance, yes, I just painted out the frieze and the lovely little features. Correct. So the question is, can you tint your tile paint? Yes, you can. You can tint your tile paint, and so there'd be, depending on the tiles and the age of the tiles, there'd be a bit of toing and froing to get your colour match right, but absolutely you can do it. And you know what? You could even just decide to throw that idea out and say you're going to do a contrasting stripe that isn't 90s blue and seashells. That's always another option. That's a very good point that's been brought up from that question, so great question. That sometimes we try really hard to match when we're renovating, right? And sometimes if we miss the mark a little and we don't quite match it, it looks dodgy as all buggery and stands out. So in those cases, it's just better to contrast it. So in that example where, what's your name? Where Linda said to me, well, what if I can't get a perfect match? Then contrast it. If you had a lovely grey bathroom, put in a white stripe or put in a darker grey stripe. So you're minimising the age of the blue 90s frieze. It's just a question here.
If you had like those feature tiles that had textures, that had...
Yeah, they did.
They did, so you just painted it over and they didn't...
I like to call it the embossed look. So the question was, you know how some of these amazing tiles, they weren't just flat because that'd be too easy for us renovators. They were like, textured, and they like illustrated the seahorse's tail and all that sort of stuff. So yes, it does mean that you can still see it. Of course you can. You can't get rid of that. But what it does do by removing the colour is it makes it more like a texture rather than an in-your-face feature. But that's another really great point you've brought up. Well done. So I do this all the time using the White Knight tile paint. So you guys will see that with the Bristol guys, the men that believe you can paint everything just like I do. And so the White Knight tile paint, it comes with a specific prep as well. I know that you're going to hear this from Lance tonight, but I need to say it. I actually received a message from one of our students this morning about this, going, preparation is everything, Naomi. I'm like, that's right. And the same goes with painting, that when you're preparing, especially on your tiles, you need to prep them well. So you need to clean them extremely well. You need to use the prep product underneath. And when you do that, it will stick for years and years and years. Cool? All right. So refinishing your walls, it can help. Were you laughing at me or at the bathroom? All right, so this is an example of, this bathroom isn't still a showcase or a winner, but do I care about making pretty spaces or profitable spaces? Profitable spaces. So in this circumstance, you can see, even though the floor tiles are left, by getting rid of the other wall tiles, it completely changes the complete look of the bathroom. And so some people, who would have walked into that and said, gut it? Hands up, be honest. Yeah, I get that. It's pretty offensive. And that's perhaps half of your demo divas. But it can just show you what using your tile paint can actually do. Changing one element can totally change the look and feel of that bathroom. The taps, because quick in and out. Quick in and out. And it all depends on your budget. Like everything depends on your budget. It's interesting you bring that up. So when we were doing the Rapid Challenge on that property where I was renovating remotely through Stuart's manpower, a lot of the questions we were getting back on social media was, why did you do this or why didn't you do that? And often when you're looking at someone else's projects and you're like, why didn't you do that? What do you reckon most often the common answer should be? Budget. But it shouldn't be, I ran out of money. It should be, I chose not to because my sweet spot didn't include it. Yeah? Because you never want to be doing a renovation and go, oh, I didn't do that because I ran out of cash. Because generally speaking, if you have that mindset, it means you've actually affected your saleability. Whereas if you go, I didn't do that because there was no money in it for me, then that's a smart way to renovate. Yes, you had a question. Yes, great question. So the question was, earlier I mentioned that I prefer if it's going to be a family home and they're going to have children in there and it's a painted floor, I find a tiled floor wears better. So the question was, do I feel differently about wall painting? Absolutely. So I have. I've painted the walls of many properties that I've held for probably up to 4 to 5 years, and it has held solid and strong. The same as I'm going to show you a bath transformation in a minute. It has held solid and strong. I think it literally, for me, it's about the traffic on the floor. It's about the dropping of a glass makeup bottle that then takes a chunk out of it. I find that the walls, they do just fine. So really great question. All right. And then the next one is retiling. Just like we retiled over the floor, guys, you can retile over the walls. Absolutely retile over the walls. And to be honest with you, there's a lot less headaches. Because do we need to worry about floor wastes? No. Do we need to worry about door heights? Okay. Do we need to worry about the membrane? Yes, down the bottom we do. Yep. Do we need to worry about a fall on the floor? No. So there are so many more reasons that make this much, much easier. And here's a great example. This was a unit in Sydney, actually. It recently sold for $1.2 million. It was a 2-bedroom unit. And those walls were tiled over. And you can see in there, I'm going to go down so I can point to it, you can see in here that we've used, can everyone see this one? See here, see this little piece of angle that we've used? Because one of the dangers of tiling over the walls, if you're not going to the ceiling, and even if you were going to the ceiling, you'd still have the problem because you'd be a bit fat up near your cornice, yeah? Is you can choose to tile half height and then the property allowing using just a timber bead to cover over and to finish beautifully that edge where those tiles will be. Yes, question? Oh, yes, I totally can. The pole's in your way. All right, here. So if I didn't put that piece of bead there, you would have seen the edge of the old tile and the edge of the new tile, which isn't a great look. And so you can choose to simply use, it can be a timber. Obviously, it's not if it's not in a shower. Yes, question? If you're going to tile over, yeah, so you just get a qualified electrician, so that I don't get in trouble. You just get a Leco to pull the light switch off, tile around, and they reinsert it, because there's generally always give in the wire behind it. So the question was, how do I deal with light switches? I was just saying, you can pull the light off, you can tile around it, and then you just get the light fitting put back on. Yes? So yep, there's penny rounds here. No, it was horrible yellow. So the question was, what was underneath what I tiled over? What was underneath what I tiled over was like the old-fashioned 45 by 45 squares, and they were like a mustard with like a brown edge around them. They're hot. Hot. They wouldn't have sold for 1.2. Yes, question? Yeah, great question. That's the question of the day so far. So the question was, can you paint a toilet? So another great response has been brought up over here, is it's cheaper to replace it. In some cases, yes, it is cheaper to replace it because you can buy a toilet a dime a dozen nowadays, but there will be situations where for some reason you mightn't want to, or it might be too hard, or there could be specifics of an exact property. And absolutely, I've seen cisterns painted. And I've also seen the bases painted, but you'd need to be painting it with a product which I'm going to show you in a minute, which is like the bathtub and basin product, because it'd need to be like an epoxy finish. It couldn't just be a normal paint. But you can. You don't like your avocado toilet? No, just joking. All right, so were there any more questions on tiling over on walls? Who's a little more open to tiling over on walls now? Completely doable, and to be honest with you, compared to tiling over on floors, it is so much less of a headache, and it's a great option. Again, obviously you must consider your tile heights. It will impact on your shower screen, without doubt. It will impact on the plumbing of your cistern, so you need to, oh, there's a question at the back from Mr. Zadell. Yes? Yeah. Completely. Easy. So what Stuart was saying was that on the Rapid Renovation Challenge, we were really lucky that the tiles we were replacing with on that one were actually the same thickness as the tiles that were there. So we didn't have to extend the back arm of the toilet. We didn't have to worry about any of it being unfitted, which was great. So it can be, when you're tiling over, even if you're wanting to keep the toilet and just retile your walls, you need to be really conscious of how that will affect your cistern. It's again that same thing, guys, that everything you touch affects something else. Yeah? Everything you touch in renovation affects something else. And it can obviously impact on your mirrors. Cool? So next one is obviously replacing your walls. You know how we said replacing your floor tiles? Man, that's a headache. Replacing your wall tiles is so much easier. So you can remove and replace, you can either just remove and replace your features or your freezers. You can remove and replace spots. So if you have a great tiler. For example, in the house with the royal blue seahorses, they had some of those just randomly in the shower, like you'd be showering and there'd be like a floating seahorse coming past you, yeah? And so we actually got him to cut those out because we were able to get plain tiles at the same size and replace that individual tile. So that's even an option, guys. Or you can remove and replace all of them without having to do a full bathroom renovation, unlike with your floor. But one thing I think it's important to do, and we'll probably get to it in a minute, but I'm going to cover it now, is it's important to think logically about this. I don't want you guys going away going, oh my gosh, it's so cool, I can like repaint that, replace that, I'm going to tile over that, and then you get there and you go, oh, that cost me $7,000 and it looks $7,000. I could spend $9,000 and I could have a new bathroom that looks 30. Cool? So it's important to go through this process. So as you're developing your renovation plans, which we'll talk about tomorrow in another building block, as you're developing your renovation plans, it's really important that you always keep that lateral thinking going. And you always look at the plans you've done, cost them up, and look at your products. Because you don't want to end up with even a $5,000 bill for refinishing a bathroom and going, I don't think that's added what a new bathroom might be able to for $8,000. Yeah? Cool? Always got to keep our smarts about us. Walls and ceilings. Now, guys, a lot of people, when they see mold damage, immediately go, I'm going to have to rip it out. I can never get that out. So we're going to be introducing to you this weekend the coolest range of products. I hope that heaps of you have already used them. It's a range called Zinza. Has anyone used Zinza products before? Yeah, who loves Zinza? Oh, that's not a love noise. Who loves Zinza? Yeah. Zinza can pretty much cover anything, literally. And as long as it's a lawful and a lovely covering. So a lot of people believe when they see a mouldy or a water damaged ceiling, if it's just surface, if it's not ingrained in the product, that they need to replace it. It's not the case. Zinza have some amazing products, and they've actually put together for you guys this weekend some amazing goodie bags, which is pretty cool, which you'll be getting later on. They have some great products that not only cover smoke damage, they cover water damage, and they also cover mold that obviously the mold's been removed. Okay, so always want you to consider when you see mold in any of your ceilings or water damage or smoke damage, it doesn't mean that you have to get rid of it. You need to deal with the problem that got it there, and then you need to deal with the appearance of it. Cool? All right. So shower screens are a huge one, guys. Shower screens are a massive way to completely transform your bathrooms. And I have often found that painting walls and changing a shower screen can add epic value to a property. They're one of the cheapest ways you can do it. Nowadays, I find that frameless shower screens installed by a shower screen firm, a frameless sits at about $850, a semi-frame sits at about $670, and a nice frame sits even lower. You'll see specified in those documents, for those that have standard fits, Bunnings have an amazing range of shower screens. And so that's one of the first things that I want you to be thinking of with tapware to see what you can do to a bathroom. Now, I don't have an avocado bath for you, but I do have an apricot bath. Oh, people are screwing up their faces. Who likes my apricot bath? I like it, I tell you. So there is a phenomenal... What was that? Yeah. I like detail. Hey, detail's important. All right, look at what you can do with a little bit of paint. That's a great response. That's cool. It is cool. And it's this awesome product called Tub and Basin. Write that down, guys. I've used Tub and Basin on properties that I've sold. This is obviously in conjunction with a tile paint for the walls as well. But I've used Tile and Tub, but Tub and Basin on properties I've sold as well as properties I've leased for years and never had any problem with it on the bath at all. Who's used Tub and Basin before? Has anyone used it? Yep. It's a crazy product. It's also really, really good for, the gorgeous old pedestal basins that were in the houses with the avocado and the apricot baths, and they were often the same colour. That can be used amazingly in there. And that's the one, the toilet question, that's the one that I was saying that you'd probably have to use on the base of the toilet, that product. Cool? Now, vanities. Vanities nowadays. Oh, there's another question. Oh, sorry. Question. Rolled. Thanks. It did. Yeah, it did, absolutely. So one of the things you'll find with, and they will, tonight with Bristol, we're going to be, so the question was, did I roll or spray that finish? So that was a rolled and paintbrushed finish on that. Cool? It's multiple coats. So the question was one coat or two. It was multiple coats. So it had prep coat, which you must have on the walls, and then 2 top coats on that one. So yes, behind the pole. So yes, it came up really well, had a great finish. You'll see tonight with Bristol, one of the things I find with the tile paint, and especially with the tub and basin, is that they self-level a little. They have a self-leveling element inside them that actually, when you roll it on or you brush it on, and the strokes or the roller marks actually level out. Cool. And another question? No. So I find, great question, do I only do that if it was a flip, not a hold and rent? No, I find that the tub and basin sticks really well. I find I have no dramas with that on properties that I've held in the past. Yes, great point. So there's a point down here about silicone. Silicone can be one of the biggest turn-offs in a bathroom. Who's been into a bathroom that the silicone's been yellow or mouldy? Cool. So one of the biggest things, whenever you're doing any of this painting, any of these replacings, the first thing you do is you take out all of your silicone. And the last thing you do is put beautiful, fresh silicone back in. So you can't ever, and it's something we can talk about with Bristol tonight, I never paint over any of the gapping or caulking in my properties. It's always removed and then always replaced afterwards. So great point. Very good point. Vanities are another great place where you can really update a bathroom. Another huge place where you can. You can, if you choose, just paint it, because you can paint laminated surfaces. You can use the tub and basin on the top porcelain part. That's also definitely an option for you. Or in many cases, you can just replace it. You can simply replace it. They're so affordable nowadays, but some things you need to think about when you're replacing it. What things do you think you might need to think about if you're replacing a vanity? You need to think about underneath it what side your waste is on. Cool? So every time I go into a property where I'm wanting to replace the vanity, I'll go in, I'll pull out the drawers and I'll open the door. I need to know whether the waste goes out the floor or whether the waste goes out the wall. I need to know what side the waste is on, or is it centered? Cool? I need to, if I can, I'll get my key or my fingernails. If it goes to the floor, I like to get underneath it to check that someone hasn't partially renovated it before, because there could have been a vanity there the whole time. They could have tiled over that floor up to the edges of the vanity. So then if I replace it, I need to have exactly the same or a larger footprint to put that vanity back on. The other thing is, even if someone hasn't done that, even if it's the original floor all the way through, I need to make sure that that floor is still in good condition. So many of the old vanities had metal legs, there were rust marks that can be quite difficult to get off the tiles. So vanities are a great way to spruce up the space, but you need to make sure that you investigate it before you pull it out. The other thing you need to make sure you do is, a lot of the time in our older homes, our vanities were wedged between 2 things. You know, they were wedged between a bath and between a shower screen, or between a wall and an edge of a hob bath. So always check your measurements, because it would be a very cheap and affordable thing to do if you can replace it with an off-the-rack vanity. But if it's not a standard specification to what we have now, and you find yourself having to get a custom vanity to go in, you've definitely lost your bang for buck. Cool? There was a question I saw just come up. Yes, sir. Yes? So the question, I think, let me know if I've got it right, is on the cabinetry of the vanity. If it wasn't bloated and falling apart with water damage, if it just had some discoloration or a stain, I'd look at painting it. If that was the only thing wrong with the vanity, I would look at painting it, absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Have you ever gone from a single vanity to a double vanity?
Great question. The question was, have I ever gone to a single vanity or a double vanity? So I'm totally going to blow that one out of the water with depends on your target market. Cool. So great question though, guys, because so many people nowadays are really pro double vanities. And that's a great thing if it's in the right spot. So would I put a double vanity in under a 900 wide? Absolutely not. I find them useless. I would never put a double vanity in under a 1200 millimeters wide. Because there was some rocket scientist that decided everyone needed a basin. And I don't know about you guys, has any woman ever gone into a hotel that has double basins and you have to put your makeup in the sink? See? Yeah, hearing my pain. So I would never do a double basin under a 1200, and at that it would still be a push. And so the reason that I would do it is, number one, if it's a huge space, and number two, if I know that the market needs it. So if it's a family home and that's the ensuite, or it's a family home and the main bathroom services 4 or 5 bedrooms, like a really big home, then absolutely in that circumstance. Yes. Really good question. So how much does the style and fixtures of the fittings that we're putting in matter? It's huge. It's absolutely huge. For me, I call them pregnant bowls. The pregnant bowls are extremely dated. They're very dated. The only time I would use a pregnant bowl nowadays, if I had a really, really, really narrow space and I could have like a 200 deep vanity with a little pregnant lip, and that was the only way that I could get a basin into there. So for me, shape does matter and the finish does matter, which is why you guys have the finishing formulas. The only time I would vary from what I believe the target market is dictating is if from a structural perspective, I was backed into a corner. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yes.
If you have the choice,
I love your questions, everyone.
with skirting, wall hung, or legs.
Great question. If I have my choice, vanities with skirting, wall hung, or legs. So without doubt, my preference is a wall hung vanity. So it's not always an option to put one in retrospectively. Why do you reckon that might be, guys? Waist, fantastic. Budget constraints, absolutely. Tiles underneath it. Structural support. Whenever you're renovating, it's always important that you think about the end product. So structural support, generally speaking, you need to have some substantial structural support in the wall to be able to hang a vanity off it. So you can't guarantee that if you already have a floor-mounted vanity, whether on legs or on kick, that you can't guarantee that you're going to be able to hang one off that wall unless you're going to be completely renovating and putting some structural support into there. So my preference is without doubt wall hung. It's then especially for rented properties, wall hung or legs, because I find that inevitably anything that goes to floor in the bathroom, longevity-wise, ends up wet. But budget's an issue. Budget's a huge issue. All right, man, vanity sparked some questions, didn't it? Keep those going, guys. All right, so we can replace it, but we must consider, as we talked about, are they the same size? Is the current one floor or wall hung? Is the floor mounted one, are there stains from the current feet? A lot of the leg ones, as I said, were metal. They used to leave little rust stains underneath it. And will we be able to clean them off? So you need to make sure before you go and ripping that one out that you're going to have to be able to replace it. So also about where your waste runs. Now it doesn't mean, I must say, it doesn't mean if your waste runs through the floor, it doesn't mean you can't use a wall hung. Yeah, you can still use a wall hung vanity. You just have to, I like to call it a muffler cover. You know those souped up cars that run around, the doof cars, and they've got those big shiny chrome muffler covers? You can just get one of those wrapped around, or you can get cabinetry built around your waist. So I don't want you to think that you can't have a floor vented waist with a wall hung vanity, because you certainly can. Yes?
Or you can tile it out from the wall with
Yeah. So that's pretty much the same as building. So the comment was I was saying that you can build cabinetry around it, you can muffler cover it, or you can you can hide your waste in a recessed wall, depending on where the position of it is. Yes?
Just going back to bathroom.
Yes?
Would you rather have a shower and a bath or a separate shower?
Oh, great question. Would I prefer to have a shower over bath or a separate shower? Totally depends on your target market. So if your target market is a downsizer in any way, definitely not a shower over bath. If your target market is a family, I would prefer to have a separate shower and bath. Yep. But if your target market is two young professionals in the inner city, then I would, if space, no, not a bar or a spa, gosh, that's going downhill fast. I would be open to just having a shower there. Yes. Sorry, I'm lost with that. Go again. Yep. Yes. Is it glass? Yep. No. Design is nothing without function. That's so important, guys. So that's, I guess, where that question was. Would I choose prettiness over functionality? Absolutely not. Because to be honest with you, prettiness is pretty useless without function. So absolutely not. Yep, last question, then we'll move on just so we don't run late, and we can ask them all at lunch and talk. Yes? Yes? Great question. Great question. So the question was about feeling agitated looking at a wet room concept. This is called a wet room concept. It's very it harks from the Japanese wet room concepts. You do see them a lot in houses nowadays. They are a very, very effective way to use space in the sense. So in this property, the reason that this has this, because this is actually a property I did. So as a mum of 4, I don't want a wet room at my house, okay? I totally get that. In my ensuite, I'd probably be okay with a wet room. In my kids' bathroom, no. So the reason that wet rooms can be amazing. So in this bathroom, I needed to get a bath and a shower. I needed that. It was a family home, and I couldn't fit an ensuite in at all. So I needed to get a bath and a shower. It only had a shower when I bought it. So I was able to steal some room from a laundry. I pulled some room away from a laundry, which is pretty much where the bath is now, but I was around 250 mil short of being able to have my own contained shower, because it's really not okay unless you're shop in the petite area of most shopping centres. I generally don't like to have a shower cubicle or shower space less than 900 by 900. I find people can't touch their toes. I find you can't shave your legs. It literally is a useless space. And most people will walk into it going, how can I shower there? The only time I would ever go smaller, for example, is if I could do an 800 by 1100 or 800 by 1200. So in this case here, to be able to have a shower and a bath, I didn't have enough room in there. So what the wet room concept allows you to do as a renovator is it allows you to have a narrower shower, because it isn't a 900 shower there, it was about a 700 shower, but because I don't have glass all around me, I can fit it in. Because when you're in the shower, you only have a piece of glass on one side. And so that is exactly where it's really important to think hard and put aside how we feel about concepts. Because on that property, from memory, I think we made $48,000. So you know what? They didn't care about the wet room. They just cared about a separate bath and shower. So 2 great things have come up from that. We need to put aside sometimes how we feel about stuff a little bit. And also about thinking outside of the square about, I really needed a bath and I really needed a shower. And so I needed to think laterally about how I could get that in. Yes? Great question. What's my preference with architraves in wet areas? So if I was doing one from scratch, like complete from scratch, I'd tile in, without doubt. I'd tile in, especially if it's a tenanted property, because I know my maintenance is going to be 0. So that's what I prefer there. All right. So there we go. Here's a great example of what you can do with your vanities as well, befores and afters. That goes to the question about the staining, sir, about can you just paint over it? Absolutely, you can, as long as it's in good structural integrity in it. All right, fixtures and fittings. Man, you can completely change a property with some fixtures and fittings. They need to be one of the things you absolutely look at straight up. And although I don't think this is avocado, I am going to show you this one. I think it's close. Is that close to avocado? Oh, I've just been given the big no deal from up the back. What's that then? Is that mint? Oh, okay, good. And check out, this is a great example, guys. I'm showing you this because there are multiple strategies used in this bathroom. I didn't have a great before photo for you. Original floor, original tessellated floor. Tub and basin on the pedestal, tub and basin on the bath. Wall paint, wall tile paint, so white night tile paint on the walls, new shower screen, new fittings, total spend, less than $6,000, property went for 1.2. Yeah? So it can be done. It absolutely can be done. And he is one of the biggest rescuers ever. So you can see, guys, now, I know we've just spent a lot of time going into this detail, and your questions that you were asking were amazing, because I want you leaving here believing that if you walked into a property tomorrow, any of these little strategies you could implement, without doubt, as long as it's the right strategy for that property. Yes, question? Yeah, so that was professionally done. I didn't do that myself. Yeah, absolutely. Most of it's labour costs, shower screen, plumbing. It had a new toilet. So most of that is labour cost in that. Absolutely. If you did that yourself, it'd be tiny. It'd probably be $1,000, $1,500 if you're willing to tackle that yourself. But I didn't tackle that one myself. You're welcome. Great question. All right. So guys, but remember, when we add all this up, we need to work out, it's a bit like deal or no deal. So we've done all this, we've costed it up, we've worked out what we could do. So we can either go, deal, I'm going to add value, or we can go, no deal, I'm going to demolish. Yeah? That's where the demo divas are into it. So that's what, yes, question. So the question was, if someone had a corner spa baths, they're everywhere. Ask Stuart what I think of spa baths. Oh, I love them. No, I don't. So the question was, if there was a corner spa bath, would I keep it or get rid of it? If the spa bath did not work, I would absolutely trash it. I would never keep it. It's never okay to sell a property with something that doesn't work in it. If it worked and it wasn't apricot, and the metal fixtures on it weren't corroding and gross, and it was in an ensuite, not in a main bathroom, and I had no money, and I was broke, and I was selling my children on the street, then I'd keep it. But otherwise, I'm probably out, hey. No. I'm probably out. One of the reasons is, say for example it is broken, it has to go. No, being serious. If it is broken, it has to go. If it isn't a great colour, they aren't as easy to refinish because they have all the fittings and fixtures in there. If the fittings and fixtures are plastic, generally they look pretty gross. Exactly. And if they're metal, generally they've lost their shine and their tarnish. If it's a family home, maybe it's just the mum in me, but spa baths and children do not mix. So if I'm marketing the property, if my target is a family, that's kind of a big no deal for me. Just maybe it's a moral mum thing, I don't know, a moral mum thing. So yeah, that would be my answer to that. Well, to be honest with you, so the question was, what would you do? Would you have to lip up the tiles and redo it again? If you were going to be removing the spa bath and putting in a straight, normal bath, it'd be a very big undertaking. Absolutely. All right. So now, oh yes, question. Hello.
Sorry, one quick one. What is your view on mirrors with vanities?
What is my view on mirrors with vanities? Great question and great pickup. As a general rule of thumb, this is absolutely not my ideal situation. So this had a built-in cabinet mirror on the right-hand side. So this house was actually a double brick cavity property. So again, totally not my choice to renovate because any change you need to make can be quite arduous. So given that had about a 7-day timeline before it went to market when I got to it, so there was no opportunity to move vanities or move mirrors, but generally speaking, it's one of the key things, which is a great segue. Good job. Yes, because I'll come back to you now because there's another question.
With a freestanding bath, how do you sort of tackle the sort of shelving around it to, lean things on?
Good question. So if I use a freestanding bath, how do I tackle things around it? So in regards to a freestanding bath, there's a lot of things you need to think about. So you need to think about how you can clean behind it, the flow of water behind it. There has to be fall underneath it. So when it overflows, which eventually at some point most baths do in my house, that the water falls to the right spot. In regard to shelving, you can address it a couple of ways. You can look at doing niches in the walls, so you can recess niches out into the walls to store your items if you need to, especially if you're doing a full renovation. Or a lot of people nowadays, to be honest with you, they use freestanding furniture in a bathroom so they'll have a stool beside the bath to do that. And again, even if you don't use a freestanding bath, if you're putting a hob bath in but there's no area around it, if the bath edges pretty much go straight to the tiles, then you're going to have to implement some of those strategies anyway.